Night falls over the English countryside. The fields lie silent beneath a pale moon, their shapes distorted by shadow. High above, the hum of approaching engines grows, a wave of Heinkel and Dornier bombers slicing through the clouds. In their crosshairs below, an armored formation seems to stretch for miles, rows of British tanks glinting faintly in the moonlight. The bombardiers ready their payloads. Flare markers ignite. The earth trembles as hundreds of bombs thunder down. Flames rise. The pilots report another armored division destroyed. London Command confirms the mission is complete. But when dawn arrives, the smoke clears to reveal an astonishing sight. Not a single tank lies broken, only wooden frames, canvas shells, and painted canvas wheels. And somewhere miles away, a man who once built scarecrows for farmland smiles faintly. His craft, once meant to guard fields from birds, had just fooled the Luftwaffe itself. By the summer of 1940, Britain stood alone. France had fallen. Europe lay under Hitler's shadow. Every dawn brought the low, mechanical hum of Luftwaffe bombers streaking across the Channel, the opening phase of what would become known as the Battle of Britain. The Royal Air Force fought bravely, but its resources were stretched to the breaking point. Fighter squadrons flew multiple sorties a day. Airfields, fuel depots, and vehicle convoys were bombed again and again. The British Army, still reeling from the evacuation at Dunkirk, struggled to rebuild its armored divisions. Every tank was precious, and every destroyed one was a loss the nation could scarcely afford. The Luftwaffe's reconnaissance units photographed everything. They mapped rail lines, storage yards, and even hedgerows to trace tank movement. Nothing seemed hidden from their cameras. Each German photo analyst sought the faintest gleam of metal, the sign of an armored threat to be wiped out from the air. Inside the War Office, desperation bred invention. If Britain could not outnumber the Luftwaffe, perhaps it could outwit them. The Ministry of Supply and the newly formed Camouflage Directorate were tasked with a strange mission to make the enemy see what wasn't there and miss what truly was. So came together an unusual mix of people. Painters, theater set designers, engineers, and sculptors were summoned to design illusions of war. Among the recruits was an unassuming craftsman from Norfolk, a scarecrow maker whose hands knew the art of deception better than most. His simple wooden frames had once fooled crows and starlings from a distance. Now they were about to deceive the most powerful air force on Earth. His proposal would challenge every rule of military engineering and, in time, become one of Britain's strangest yet most effective defenses. In the autumn of 1940, the Camouflage Directorate took shape inside a quiet cluster of workshops hidden in the English countryside. Its mission was unconventional, but not to build weapons, but to build illusions. The team included stage designers from the London Theatre District, royal engineers, and eccentric artists who viewed warfare as a grand stage of light and shadow. Among them stood a wiry, soft-spoken man from Norfolk, a craftsman who had once built scarecrows for farms threatened by flocks. His name rarely appeared in official reports, but his ideas soon traveled far beyond his small village. He proposed a structure so simple that generals at first dismissed it as childish. Wooden frames draped in canvas, painted to mimic the contours of tanks, trucks, and artillery. From above, he explained, the Luftwaffe pilots would see shapes, not steel, but silhouettes. The Germans relied on aerial photography and shadow contrast, not ground-level inspection. A few tricks of perspective could convince an observer thousands of feet above that an entire armored regiment waited below. His designs broke military logic. No armor, no engines, no steel, just the art of suggestion, the power of the human eye to believe its own expectations. The Directorate, intrigued but cautious, approved small-scale trials. In fields near Kent, the prototypes were placed in neat formation. Reconnaissance flights confirmed the deception worked. Enemy aircraft photographed them as authentic. Reports soon followed of Luftwaffe raids targeting the tanks. The wooden shells burned, but the real vehicles, hidden miles away, remained untouched. The Scarecrow makers' forbidden frame design had crossed from farmland to battlefield. What began as an experiment would evolve into one of the most audacious deception programs of the entire war, a silent war of shadows fought across the skies of Britain. From a technological point of view, the dummy tank was a masterpiece of simplicity. Built from wooden slats, wire mesh, and painted canvas, each frame weighed less than 2 men coup. D lift. There were no engines, no armor, no metal tracks, only the illusion of them. The key was geometry. Viewed from above, the shapes cast shadows identical to those of real tanks under sunlight or moonlight. From 3,000 feet, even a trained Luftwaffe observer could not tell the difference. The trick lay in distortion. Engineers adjusted the angles of panels and paint tones to mimic light reflection on steel. Small mirrors and tar-coated fabric imitated glints from armor plating. Some even added mock exhaust stains and wheel tracks pressed into the soil with rollers. To the eye in the sky, these details completed the illusion. Militarily, this was revolutionary. Until then, warfare relied on concealment, hiding assets from view. But the British had reversed the idea. If the enemy sought targets, they would provide targets, false ones. It was deception as active defense. These dummy formations were deployed near real bases, diverting bomb loads away from critical airfields and supply depots. The operation required precise coordination. Every decoy tank's position matched the expected pattern of genuine armor units. Fake roads and dummy fuel dumps reinforced the illusion. At night, controlled fires mimicked the glow of operational camps. Each detail served a singular goal: to make the Luftwaffe waste its fury on ghosts. For the first time, illusion became a shield. What began as wooden skeletons soon evolved into an entire system of camouflage and misdirection. The idea would spread beyond tanks to aircraft, fuel tanks, even entire runways. And behind this quiet revolution stood men with brushes, nails, and canvas, fighting not with bullets, but with imagination. Yet beyond the technology, there was the human story, the men and women who built these illusions under constant threat of bombing. Many were theater painters, carpenters, and artisans who had never worn a uniform. They worked in open fields, hammering and painting as sirens wailed in the distance. Their workshops smelled of turpentine, damp earth, and fear. They knew a single misstep, one visible mistake, could draw a real bomb instead of a dummy one. Some of these craftsmen joked darkly that they were set designers for hell. Others kept silent, knowing their work could never be publicly celebrated. Even their families were forbidden to know what they were building. Each night they left their makeshift depots, uncertain whether the next air raid would erase the very illusions they had created. From the Luftwaffe's perspective, the deception was invisible. Pilots believed they were striking at armored concentrations or ammunition parks. Intelligence analysts in occupied France recorded devastating strikes against divisions that did not exist. The British intercepted these reports through ultra-decrypts, confirmation that the illusion had worked. The psychological effect was profound. The Luftwaffe's targeting confidence eroded. Reconnaissance flights began second-guessing their own photographs. German bombers wasted hundreds of tons of explosives on empty fields while genuine installations remained untouched. Each false success emboldened British planners to expand the ruse further. To the Scarecrow maker and his team, this was vindication. Their art had entered the realm of strategy. Their deception had not only protected men and machines, it had begun to shift the rhythm of the air war itself. The real test, however, would come soon, when the largest Luftwaffe raid sought to cripple southern England once and for all. In those nights of fire, the fate of the decoy program would be decided. August 1940. The Battle of Britain reaches its peak. Across the Channel, Luftwaffe Command prepares one of the heaviest bombing offensives yet, a strike meant to break Britain's armored backbone before invasion plans move forward. Targets are marked: suspected tank depots, fuel reserves, and assembly grounds in Kent and Hampshire. Aerial photographs show dense concentrations of vehicles hidden in open fields. What the cameras cannot see is that many of those tanks are hollow shells, frames of wood and cloth built in quiet workshops by the Camouflage Directorate. They stand in neat lines, their painted bodies glinting faintly beneath camouflage netting. To the pilots above, they appear convincing. From altitude, light and shadow do the rest. On the night of August 24th, the Luftwaffe's bombers roar into British airspace. Searchlights cut the sky like white spears. Anti-aircraft guns thunder from the hills. Below, fields light up with the flare markers of approaching aircraft. Then the rain of destruction begins. Hundreds of bombs cascading on false targets. Entire valleys erupt in flames. Villagers miles away watch the horizon glow red, believing an armored division has been annihilated. By dawn, smoke cloaks the landscape. Reconnaissance planes sweep in to confirm the kill. Photographs taken that morning show scorched earth, charred wreckage, and blackened shapes resembling ruined tanks. The illusion holds perfectly. Luftwaffe command reports back to Berlin, major British armor concentrations destroyed near Maidstone. Yet beneath the ash and splintered timber lies the truth. No tank factories, no depots, no soldiers, only the remains of wooden frames. That morning, as British intelligence intercepts the German report, one officer murmurs a quiet victory. They bombed the ghosts. But this was only the beginning. The deception's success would spark something far larger, an organized nationwide campaign of military illusion unlike anything the modern world had ever seen. In the days that followed, British intelligence confirmed the scale of the Luftwaffe's mistake. Intercepted German messages spoke of a decisive blow to British armor. High command in Berlin celebrated the reports, convinced that their bombers had crippled the last mobile divisions defending southern England. The deception had worked flawlessly. For the Camouflage Directorate, this was proof beyond question. Their illusions had absorbed hundreds of bombs that would have otherwise fallen upon real units. The false tank parks around Maidstone, Canterbury, and Ashford had become decoys of national importance. Behind the scenes, new orders were issued. More dummy tanks, more fake camps, more fabricated infrastructure. The deception would become systematic. By late 1941, entire sectors of Britain's defense relied on the Scarecrow maker's principles. Starfish sites, elaborate decoy cities designed to mimic burning urban areas, were established to draw night bombers away from London, Bristol, and Manchester. Elsewhere, fake airfields were built with dummy hangars, illuminated runways, and wooden Spitfires parked in neat rows. But it all traced back to one simple idea: the frame, the humble wooden skeleton that transformed from scarecrow to shield. What began as a forbidden experiment, dismissed by engineers, laughed at by officers, had turned into a weapon of national defense. When the Luftwaffe's bombing campaign finally shifted toward other targets, the toll on Britain's real military infrastructure was far lighter than expected. German analysts could not understand how British armor remained operational despite months of successful raids. They didn't know they had been bombing shadows. And somewhere in a small Norfolk workshop, the Scarecrow maker continued to build in silence. His creations no longer guarded crops, but a nation. The deception war had proven its power, and from the ashes of those wooden fakes, a new kind of warfare was born. One fought not with fire, but with illusion. When historians later reviewed the Battle of Britain, the role of deception often remained hidden in the shadows, classified, unspoken, buried beneath the triumphs of the Royal Air Force. Yet within the sealed archives of the War Office lay reports that told another story: the quiet war waged by carpenters, artists, and a scarecrow maker who had fooled the enemy from the sky. After the success of the dummy tank fields, Britain's deception program expanded at remarkable speed. Under the guidance of the Camouflage Directorate and the newly formed A-Force, the principles of illusion were applied to nearly every front. Along the southern coast, decoy tank concentrations were paired with dummy airfields. Wooden aircraft rested on fake runways, their propellers spinning in the wind. Fuel dumps were simulated with painted oil drums and black tar stains to appear freshly bombed. Each illusion was meticulously planned. The timing of fires, the pattern of shadows, even the placement of supposed craters was mapped to match reconnaissance expectations. German analysts began noting consistent resistance from divisions that, in truth, did not exist. The numbers tell the quiet success. Between 1940 and 1944, more than 500 Luftwaffe raids were diverted, or wasted, on dummy targets. Cities like Bristol and Exeter were spared full destruction thanks to nearby starfish decoys that mimicked their nighttime glow under attack. Countless soldiers, families, and factories survived because the enemy had been tricked into seeing fire where there was none. In the background, the Scarecrow maker's simple frame became the foundation of this entire deception infrastructure. His designs were replicated by the thousands, light, cheap, and convincing. Yet his name never appeared in official communiques. To the public, he remained anonymous, his work sealed under wartime secrecy. Still, within the Directorate, his invention earned a quiet title whispered with respect: the frame that fooled the sky. When the war finally ended in 1945, Britain emerged battered but unbroken. The Great Deception Network, the ghost armies of wood, paint, and canvas, had served its purpose. Reports from captured Luftwaffe officers revealed the full extent of the confusion. Many had been convinced that Britain's industrial recovery was far stronger than it truly was. Entire armored divisions, they believed had been wiped out and rebuilt overnight. The truth was stranger. Those divisions had never existed at all. After the victory, the Camouflage Directorate quietly dissolved. Its members returned to their former lives, the painters to their studios, the stagehands to theaters now filled with laughter instead of blackout curtains. Their work remained classified for decades, buried in the archives under layers of dust. The Scarecrow maker faded back into obscurity. To most, he was simply a farmhand who built wooden frames during the war. To a few insiders, he was the craftsman who had once fooled the Luftwaffe. In the years that followed, his designs were rediscovered in fragments, sketches on yellowed paper, notes on perspective and light. Historians studying the evolution of camouflage traced modern decoy warfare back to those simple wooden silhouettes of 1940. Even as new technologies emerged, radar, infrared, electronic warfare, the core principle he proved remained unchanged. What the enemy sees can be more powerful than what truly exists. Though he received no medals and his name appeared in no official honors list, the results of his invention were measurable in lives saved. Thousands of civilians slept through nights that might have ended in fire. Hundreds of tanks, factories, and runways survived raids that should have destroyed them. And in every preserved photograph of a bombed field filled with wooden wrecks, his silent signature remains. A reminder that sometimes the greatest defenses are born not in steel, but in imagination. War is often remembered for its noise, the roar of engines, the crash of bombs, the chaos of destruction. But hidden beneath that thunder was a quieter battle fought with patience, wit, and imagination. The story of Britain's dummy tanks is not just about deception, it is about survival through creativity. In the darkest year of the war, when invasion seemed inevitable, one craftsman turned the art of scaring birds into a weapon of national defense. His wooden frames and painted shadows reminded the world that innovation is not always forged in laboratories or command centers. Sometimes it begins in a field, in the hands of a man who simply sees differently. The success of those phantom armies reshaped modern warfare. The lessons learned from those illusions would echo through later conflicts, from North Africa's desert ruses to the elaborate deception plans before D-Day. Every modern tactic of misdirection owes a fragment of its ancestry to those early frames built under the British sky. Today, the remains of those decoys lie forgotten in overgrown meadows, their wood long decayed, their canvas torn by time. Yet their legacy endures, not in monuments or medals, but in the invisible victories they secured. They were ghosts made of timber and cloth, but they shielded a nation of flesh and blood. And in that paradox lies the true genius of human endurance, the power to make illusions stronger than fear and imagination stronger than war.